Now let's focus on one of our most precious resources, water, or rather the lack of it in places across the continent. How do we preserve it? And can we make sure there is enough of it for our future generations? The UN estimates that at least 2 in every 3 people in Sub-Saharan Africa do not consistently have access to safe drinking water. Yes, you heard me right. That's 2 in 3. In line with that, 3 in 4 are without access to safely managed sanitation. Among the effects, nations have lost about 5% of their gross domestic product, GDP, in recent years. The UN says that fixing the problem would be a worthy investment, costing only 1 to 4% of GDP. For more on this, let's bring in Professor Craig Sheridan. He's Director of the Center in Water Research and Development at the Wits University in South Africa. Hello and welcome to the program, sir. Why is it so difficult to ensure that everybody has access to enough potable water across the continent?
Well, it's a fairly complex question, and it has to be considered in the context of what's happening in Africa at the moment. When we think about the current water, like reticulation systems that we see across much of the developed world, these are large, expensive systems that are typically piped into people's homes. They cost a lot. They need a lot of energy to run. And, the Western world in particular has been doing this for quite a long time. Part of the difficulty in Africa is we're undergoing this huge population explosion at the moment. In fact, if we look at the projections, there's something like another 2 billion Africans that are about to arrive over the next sort of 50 years or so. And most of them are not going to be living in formal housing. They're going to be living in informal settlements. So that's part of the answer to your question, but it's a really complex question.
So we're clearly talking about a challenge of increasing population contributing to why it's quite difficult to access potable water. So then let's look at how to deal with this. What needs to be done to address the water problem in light of this challenge?
So there's a number of things that we have to look at. So one of them is certainly anywhere where we have systems that are working, where we have pipe systems of water to people, we've got to focus on maintaining these systems. Wherever we have systems where we have sewage treatment, we've got to keep doing that and not let those plants fail, because obviously sewage in our rivers makes it much harder to access clean water. At the same time, we've got to consider sort of new and maybe even radical ways of providing new sources of water. One of the areas that I think we need to be seriously considering is circular economy thinking, where we go to full water reclamation. Another challenge with Africa is that we have very high evaporation. So, almost all the rainfall across the continent will ultimately evaporate if you have a look at the rates of evaporation and the rates of rainfall. And that's also in the context of it's a really big continent. Every location is unique and needs a bespoke solution. And this is complex, and it's particularly complex when you've got lots of people moving around and being born and not being provided homes to live in necessarily.
Right. Kindly stay with us, Craig. We'll get back to you after looking at how a country like Ghana is trying to address its water problems. The UN estimates that more than 70% of Ghanaian households are at risk of drinking water that is contaminated with fecal matter. In some parts of the country, people have to travel at least 30 minutes to reach an improved source of drinking water. But my colleague Maxwell Sook reports that in northwestern Ghana, the government is setting up boreholes to bring water closer to people.
A celebration for clean water. This community has just gotten a new borehole. It will be life-changing. The women have never had such pure water, almost at their doorstep. Their long daily walk to a stream is over.
Often you can step on a snake while going to fetch water from the stream, and you might end up being bitten. That has been a big problem in this community. But now that we have this borehole by our homes, that ordeal is over.
Many get sick when drinking water from sources like streams and dams. Because animals also drink from these sources, the water can become polluted and lead to life-threatening illnesses that are often difficult to treat.
It's a serious burden because almost all districts, they report increase in these numbers, in the number of these typhoid cases or in the number of diarrhea cases. And a lot of hospitals also do get typhoid perforations where they have to do surgeries to cut part of the intestine that is perforated, throw it away and reconnect it.
For children and teenagers of school age, fetching water often also means less education. Comfort has had to miss many classes, especially during the dry season when reservoirs have shrunk.
When you come here in the morning, it is usually crowded with people waiting to fetch water. As a schoolgirl, if it is your turn to fetch, you will miss class that day.
The regional government has taken some tentative steps to address the issue and has been drilling boreholes in northeastern Ghana.
Water is development, water is life. So going around the regions of the north, I realized that the common problem faced by almost every region in this zone was water. So we decided that let's begin with something. So we started with the 120 boreholes.
As the water flows, Jennifer rejoices. She is convinced she and her baby to come will now have a better future.
I'll no longer be worried about water when I go to my farm.
But although getting water in Jennifer's community has gotten easier, not everyone in the region has been so lucky. The government will have to drill a lot more boreholes before there is enough clean water for everybody.
Let's bring back our guest, Craig Sheridan, Director of the Centre in Water Research and Development at the Wits University in South Africa. Thanks for staying with us, Craig. Ghana's government will have to drill a lot more boreholes to address its water challenges, but is that a sustainable solution anywhere?
It's part of a sustainable solution. Groundwater is a renewable resource. If you're in a country like Ghana, which is quite wet in the south, it might very well work. Towards the north, there might be problems where you're becoming more into the sort of Sahel area. If there isn't enough rain, the boreholes can dry. And if boreholes are overused, they have a potential to dry out. There is also a risk with boreholes. Just because you're getting water out the ground doesn't mean it's not contaminated with either fecal matter or other forms of chemical contamination. In fact, the ground can even have other minerals which might be quite toxic for you. So again, it's all about managing the risks associated with these different sources in different locations. But certainly it's part of the solution.
Professor Craig Sheridan, Director of the Centre in Water Research and Development at the Wits University. Thank you very much. There are even more innovative and sustainable ways to address water challenges. The city of Windhoek in Namibia has been running a facility that might work as a role model solution for water-scarce regions. But it involves drinking the water you flush down your toilet.
What if I told you that the water that had been used for this or this could be used for this? How? Through the direct portable reuse system, which works like this. The process begins by collecting your dirty water from domestic and industrial sources. The water then undergoes a rigorous multi-stage treatment process that involves advanced filtration and disinfection. Impurities, pathogens, and contaminants are all removed to ensure the water meets safe drinking standards. Once the water is purified, it's integrated into the clean water supply system. For Africa, this could be a game changer. A closed-loop system would reduce the need for fresh water sources, which is crucial for meeting growing population demands and combating climate change. Africa loses about 340 million euros annually to poor access to clean water and sanitation services, 5% of the continent's GDP. The system could be a big money saver. With its potential to mitigate losses, improve health, and save time, DPR represents a sustainable approach to water management.
Pretty impressive, isn't it? Namibia's capital, Windhoek, is between two major deserts, the Kalahari and the Namib, making water a scarce commodity. So the direct potable reuse DPR systems is a welcome contribution to solving the problem of water scarcity. DW's Diane Hawker went to the capital to look at how the production of reused water has become a lifeline for the residents there.
Communal taps like these are a lifeline in informal settlements like this one in Windhoek. The water that comes out is cheap, and for those on the receiving end, the process seems simple. In truth, it's the product of a high-tech process which many know little about.
I have been living here for the last 20 years, but I don't know where the water comes from. It changes color. Sometimes it is brownish, but I don't know if the water is recycled or not.
Much of what she drinks comes from the Gorianchab water reclamation plant. Processes domestic sewage to take the water out and make it drinkable. To do this, the plant sends treated wastewater through filtration and chemical treatment processes. Regular tests are conducted in a laboratory to ensure the water meets global standards.
And that laboratory takes samples on a daily basis from different areas in Windhoek and tests the water for compliance. They will immediately alert us when there's 1 or 2 samples out of spec, and then we will react and see how serious it is and take action.
The project was the first of its kind in the world and first started decades ago.
In the 60s, Windhoek water resources, was about to run dry. And the municipality of the time decided there's only one solution to that, and that is to reclaim your domestic sewer, treat it to a potable standard, and reuse it.
We normally used to get our raw water from governments.
The current plant has been in operation since 2002 and supplies between 15 and 25% of the town's overall water. It has also served as a model for other countries who've come to the plant to learn more about the process.
And we're very proud of what we're doing here. And therefore I say cheers, zum Wohl, santé.